The United States of America is not particularly well known for making over and unders or fine guns. Here I have an over and under, but I don't think it's a fine gun. This is the only Ruger Red Label I have ever seen in England. It is a 20-bore skeet gun that I saw in the Holts sealed bid. In fact, you can see the stickers because I've just taken delivery of it in the July 2022 sealed bid sale. I spotted it across the room, went and had a look, put a bid in for always too much money because I wanted to win this, because how often in the UK does the chance come up to own one and or shoot one? I think I paid £400 including commission, £430 including commission, which actually isn't that bad for a relatively sweet 20 bore. We'll have a proper look over it in a minute, but first things first, let's shoot it, see if it works. Because it's a skeet gun, let's shoot some skeet with it. I've got some Pro 20 22 gram. They used to be 21 gram, they've gone up to 22 gram. I presume just to make it so it's a little bit harder to divide it by an ounce, because it used to be 3/4 ounce and now it's, I don't know, some odd ass fraction. Let's have a go. Does it work? The selector's cute, look at that. Pivots around a centre as opposed to pushes side to side. I suppose that actually does, is probably the wise way of doing it, just doesn't look particularly graceful. Alright, underbarrel first, height, bird, pull. Mark. Well, I took the very back edge off of that. It works. Hits that top primer well. The fact that it works is good. Nothing's guaranteed, but so far I think I'm relatively happy with my Holts bargain. There's some quality things I'd like to get into. Firstly, when Sash picked it up, even he, as a non-gun lover, a big camera lover, noticed them too. But first, let's look at the history of this little bad boy. So way back in 1977, it was the Queen's Silver Jubilee here in the UK. Labour were in power, and the car of the year here was the Rover 3500 SD1. However, in the USA, things were a bit cooler. Arnold Schwarzenegger was releasing Pumping Iron.
I'm coming day and night. I mean, it's terrific, right? So, you know, I'm in heaven.
Sci-fi was back with a bash with Star Wars, and Kunta Kinte became a household name. New York had a huge blackout. However, all of these things are culturally irrelevant by comparison to the fact that Bill Ruger released this, the Ruger Red Label. And yes, the 20 bore came first. The fact he released a 20 bore first says a lot about him and American guns. When this gun was released, it was $480, which is coincidentally about what I paid for it, which brings me some joy. For $480, it was half the price of the Remington 3200, the only other over and under built in America at the time on the market. That was also a big, heavy 12 bore. Bill Ruger wanted to make a hunting gun for the people, and so that's what he did. This 20 bore is quite heavy, and I'm led to believe that the 12 bores were quite heavy too. Let's look at it technically. From the back you have a Ruger proprietary butt plate that comes off with 2 Phillips screws, and that has the walnut stock. This looks like Turkish walnut, doesn't look like American walnut to me. So one presumes it's European walnut. The back is American walnut. It's a good guess at least. I could research it, but we're just gonna go with that. It has sort of hand-finished stamped checkering. It's definitely hand-done, but the pattern looks like it's been put in place with a machine first, or at least the outline has. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's definitely hand-finished, and that's quite nice. The wood is it's got like it is a Troil finish, it's a lacquer finish, it's quite a thin lacquer, meaning, I said, it's from 1979, this gun. It's all well and good saying that the lacquer's thin. Who knows what it looked like when it was new? Probably some of you viewers, and I'd love your thoughts on that. Leading up to the safety catch. The safety catch is unlike any other safety catch I've seen in a while. It rotates around a central pivot pin, left and right, and then goes forward. You cannot change in situ. Bring it back, flick it over, and put it forward. When they were designing this gun, the concept was that it had to be good quality and affordable and American. And I think they did a very good job of that. It is no frills, and as I remember complaining at the clay ground about, which you'll see later, it doesn't open and close nicely. It is agricultural, but when it's closed, which is the only thing that matters, it's tight and it feels good when it comes up into your shoulder. The fact that it's not particularly lovely mechanically doesn't much matter. In a market that was probably used to a lot of pump actions at the time, this probably felt quite familiar, which is really derogatory, and I'm sorry for saying it. That's horrible. I take it back. I am a gun snob. The action is black. Over time, they obviously released the gold label in 1999. That was a gold inlaid edition for the Ruger 50th anniversary. They did then machine engraved examples later on. But the majority you'll see look a lot like this, black. The action is quite long, it's very nicely profiled, it's not very deep, and that's because it locks up on two separate bites on either side that come over these two lumps here, sort of like a budget boss system, if you will. The forend has an interesting design. The shape is beautiful, by the way. The shape is absolutely lovely on this skeet gun. It's just deep and round enough to fit your hand perfectly. What I quite like is the little inlet of metal into the bottom there. Again, it's unlike a few other things on the market. There is signs of quality all over this. You have like just cheap machining. And what was interesting, so during my research for this, I'm gonna grab my phone and read you a quote. In R.L. Wilson's book, Ruger and His Guns, there's a quote that says this: "We make the finest pair of shotgun barrels that we could ever build. We put the money into the machine itself instead of hand labor. All of the great old-time gunsmiths, the men who made the beautiful things, are today building the beautiful equipment to build the beautiful things. Perhaps you could say that, except for engraving, gold inlaying, and elegant finish, using machines, you can easily surpass the work of the finest person in terms of true mechanical movement, the precision of the apparatus. You have to remember, fine watches are not made with files." And that's a lovely quote, to be fair, and it was kind of indicative of his time. And interestingly, if you think to 1977, it is at a time when gun making was moving very much from hands to machines across the globe. It's why the Italians are in such a good place now and the Spanish are not. The investment in machines and not people. And you can see this is a machine-built gun, and he can say all that stuff, but you can't beat the artistry of filing an action by hand. And this is very machined up. It's not ugly by any standard. You have the bolsters on the sides, the metal-to-metal fit is nicely done, and one presumes probably hand-finished. It's very much machine polished. The edges are all beautifully rounded off. And all of the lines are very machined. It's not, I mean, you think now to something like a Longthorn that is a hugely machine-built gun with a good amount of hand finishing, so don't take me wrong. But the precision in machining since 1977 has moved on. But for its time, this was pretty cutting edge and inexpensive. Two things that don't genuinely or generally go together. The barrel pivots around these two cutouts here, these two hinges, onto two trunnions. Looks like they are built as part of the action. The line of the top lever for a machine-made top lever is pleasing, but again, the coarseness of the files on tops is not great. But this was a gun for the people, remember. People hunt, and the American people hunt in a very different way to how we hunt or shoot with shotguns. And as such, you need a gun with coarser checkering, slightly coarser control, so you can operate them in the cold, the wet, in the backcountry. You don't want a particularly refined tool. You need a gun that works well and shoots well. I mean, let's go inside the action. In fact, I'll save that for a members video over in the members section. Join as a member today. There's a button somewhere on the bottom here. Oh, what a subtle plug. The barrels are interesting. He says they're the best barrels he can make, and they are unlike a lot of others out there. Firstly, the monoblock is significantly longer than others, or at least on this 20 bore, it looks significantly longer than others, or at least it's lower profile. There is something about it that is very elegant and just slightly different. The tubes clip into the monoblock. There's a floating rib, and then you have these two little blocks on the side here. That's quite a nice touch on a vaguely entry level gun or a budget gun back in the day, to have the ability, those little 4-end pieces, to have these little blocks here to stop water and weather getting in, as well as to give it a slightly nicer aesthetic feel, is a nice touch. One presumes as well they're part of what keeps that midrib on, because you also have a slightly raised part of the front here that I presume is part of that same system. The top rib is brazed on by the look of it and clipped onto the flat rib of the monoblock. This gun is fixed at skeet, and skeet, I would be really tempted to get it multi-choked for what it's worth. However, multi-chokes do exist, and multi-chokes became a thing later on, 1988 I believe, and then a couple of years later they just became the thing that you had. I presume, like most companies, they realised that machining multi-chokes is a lot simpler than machining fixed chokes correctly, or at least en masse it is cheaper. The ejectors are interesting. They're interesting. I presume you have to pull the back up to get them out. Yeah, I can't say that I'm totally in love with the system, but they worked every time at the range, and if this gun is anything to go by, reliability is key, not beauty of engineering. Quality engineering is key, not beauty of engineering. The 4-end is removed by this lever on the bottom, as pretty standard nowadays. The Ruger logo inlet there, and you've got a Ruger grip cap. Ruger grip cap is quite a nice touch. So the outcome is currently slightly different to what I was expecting. We just shot that stand. We shot that stand over there. We haven't missed any. It handles nicely. It's a bit like clunky and horrible when it's open, but when it's closed, it moves well enough. And the trigger, although I was really harsh on it, is plenty good enough in practice. You can pull it a lot and it feels nasty. It makes horrible noise. It goes a long way. But when you're shooting, it's perfect. So we're going to go and stretch its legs a little bit. We've only shot it at some fairly simple stuff, and it is a skeet choked gun, so we're not expecting great things for the 22 gram just over, touched over 3/4 ounce load. Let's see if we can find something a little bit further away, see if we can find something it can't do. So I was hoping this stand would be a little bit harder, but actually it's a little driven partridge stand, which, to be honest, in England is exactly what I'd take this for. Walked up game and driven partridge. Let's see how we get on. I mean, this is an epic gun. I think you'd probably fail on those big long stuff, but it's probably more to do with the choking than anything else. And if you put an appropriate cartridge in there, no problem. Yeah, it's not like fine, but it's damn good. Because I've just fallen in love with this gun, as I fall in love with most, not all, but most, I was thinking that I'd hate it. So I gave it to Craig, who runs the gun room here at Barbary, who has been in the gun trade a long time. What do you think, Craig?
It is genuinely minging. I don't know what else you can say about it, really. Step ribbed on the 20 bore. Is that step ribbed?
Yeah, look how beautiful it's like joined up.
Yeah, you couldn't. It needs a file, basically.
I mean, my conclusion is that it doesn't matter because it shoots really well, and the practicality aspect is bang on. Mount it up.
What's that? What's that?
It's a safety catch and selector.
It's pissed.
But
Look
it
at
swivels because that's more reliable.
It's not though, is it? That's just, they couldn't be bothered to straighten it up and put the engineering in to get it to go nicely.
Tell me you couldn't just bash some stuff with that.
Well, I mean, my forehead could shoot it. I can't see.
Just
I can't see over it.
Go and shoot it, we'll catch up with you later.
All right, okay.
Stop dissing my new
Yeah.
baby.
Okay, we'll have a go.
Come on.
I didn't want to like it, but it's actually all right, isn't it?
Yeah, it shoots
All right.
really well. It is the ultimate equivalent of the most ugly girl you've ever seen. She's got a PhD in personality. Just a beautiful, beautiful creature on the inside. And she's a demon in bed. Yes.
I quite like that.
It shoots really well, right?
It feels naughty to like it as well.
It does. Like it's dirt. It's like liking a bagel.
Oh,
Yeah, you flinged it over the top of that.
I got excited. It's Sasha's go, isn't it?
It is time for Sasha's rebirth as a human being, as a gun owner. But come on, out of 10, shooting.
Shooting 10.
Yeah.
Looks.
Don't worry about
minus
it. Don't
10.
worry about it. Yeah, it's one to shoot in a dark room.
Mullard.
Doesn't matter what the gun is, I'll still miss half of them.
You know what this reminds me of, Sash? An M1 Garand. Like the engineering quality, the style, even some of the noises. Just feels like a military rifle. It's got that kind of
Confidence
Thing about it.
inspiring ring.
Well, it's interesting the way the ejectors are held in. It means that they don't really have to be tight on the back end. But, you know, it's ejected every time. It's definitely a gun of the people, and I can get behind the fact that it's a gun of the people. It's not a Purdy that's priced out of the everyman market. This is a gun that they purposefully designed so that every man could afford it, and that is very inspiring. You know, the only other gun maker in the world that does something like that, other than the Italians and the Spanish and, well, a lot of the world actually, it's got a bit of bakel about it. That's what I'm trying to say. It's got a bit of bakel about it. But I actually am genuinely in love with this gun. And I came out today thinking like, it's junk. I took it out of the packet. I'm like, why did you buy it, Johnny? It's just bad. And you pick it up and you go, this isn't nice. But it closes. And it's relatively tight when it closes, but it smokes clays, doesn't it, Michael?
It does, yeah.
I can't hate it. And I regret buying it because I wanted to test it and be like, yes, it's inferior to English guns. You can see why they stopped making them. But it ain't. It's wicked. I definitely need to eat some humble pie. The Americans can build a good shooting gun. I would take this gun hunting and have absolutely no qualms about beating the hell out of it and knowing that it was going to go bang when I got to the point that it needed to go bang. Even the odd safety catch. Technically, as we've seen, it makes more sense. It's probably a more robust system than the others, or at least it's guaranteed to be on a side. And looks-wise, I mean, the action's quite Teutonic and those angles aren't super refined, but the metal is polished well, and the lines, you can't argue, it's a good-looking gun. Grip is designed for a man. The forend is, it's just good. It is just good. There we go. Another Holts bargain that I kind of regret, but for different reasons for once. Back to the studio. So this gun was produced from 1977 till 2011. In 2011 it was $2,000. $2,000, which was too much for the everyman hunter in America. You think between 1977 and 2011, semi-automatics have gone from being all right to being world-class and very reasonably priced. In 2011, in the UK at least, a Silver Pigeon was £1,050, and a Beretta it's nicer than this. It's nicer finished for sure. It's definitely sweeter, it's more modern. And I think pound for pound, if the 2011 guns were of a similar kind of ilk to this, you'd have been hard pressed to choose this over a 686 based on initial reaction of a customer, which is how sales are made, isn't it? You can try and convince somebody that an old Nico is better than a new X, Y, and Z built in an obscure country, but the customer doesn't think that, doesn't feel modern, look modern, so they will not opt for it. So, yeah, $2,000 priced itself out of the market, and the market did not respond and did not buy it. So they ceased production. They came back into production in 2013 to 2014. Not the same, like a reimagined version that was cheaper, $1,400, and lighter, and sort of combated a lot of people's issues or a lot of the reasons they thought they weren't selling this product. And that was that, because then in 2015 they disappeared from the catalogue completely and the Ruger Red Label was no more. I had no idea it even really existed. That's how little influence they've had over here as a gun over the years, up until 4 or 5 years ago when I started talking to a few American friends with them and was enlightened as to their existence. And that's why I jumped at the opportunity to buy this in Holts. And that is, I suppose, why Holts is good, because you really never know what you're going to get. Holts is like a box of chocolates.